Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 Podcast live stream. I'm your host, Stephen Negishi, along with my co-host from Awful Announcing, the associate editor, Ken Fang. And we apologize. We're a little bit behind on our original scheduled time of 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. But Ken, great to be with you again Tuesday night. Obviously, tonight, excuse me, is the opening night of the NHL. Obviously, triple header on ESPN is going on right now. We also have the MLB divisional rounds now. So much to talk about as always, and hope you had a fantastic weekend. And how are you doing tonight?
No, you're glad to be here, and always good to be on with you. And we have a lot to talk about, so let's get to it.
All right, Ken, let's get right to it. As always, we'll start with the NFL review from week 5. And obviously, we got a lot to talk about. Your Browns, as well as my Bears. And Ken, why don't we start with your Cleveland Browns? Obviously, they went to Washington to take on Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. And there have been a lot of talks about that game, and certainly not just the score, but the context of it, where, Watson looked like he was walking off the field, and Kevin Stefanski and everybody looked like they were quitting on each other, et cetera, et cetera. So give us your take on the Browns game from last week, and, where the current state of the Browns is right now from your Browns fandom perspective.
Well, let me just say this. The game was horrible. I didn't expect much, but I expected a lot more from the Cleveland Browns. They just quit. Deshaun Watson looks like he doesn't want to be there, but the owner, Jimmy Haslam, wants him there. And when Kevin Stefanski was asked in the post,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, when Kevin Stefanski was asked in the post-game press conference, is he going to bench Deshaun Watson? He said no. He said he's got to coach better. He's got to play better. Deshaun knows that. Well, Deshaun isn't going to play any better, and Kevin Stefanski isn't going to coach any better. The Cleveland Browns showed what they were on Sunday against the Washington Commanders, against a great what they could have in a good quarterback in Jaden Daniels, but instead the Browns elect to go with Deshaun Watson and pay him more money than is necessarily worth, and then sign him to an extension. So they're basically locked in until 2027, Stephen. This is just ridiculous. The Browns fans deserve better. Jimmy Haslam signed basically a guy who has harassed women. He settled another lawsuit again this past week. It's just mind-boggling how this franchise and how this ownership just doesn't care. It doesn't care. If he cared about winning, you would have gotten rid of Deshaun Watson and re-signed Joe Flacco, who we'll talk about in just a second, how he did with the Indianapolis Colts. Instead, the Browns, Myles Garrett is being wasted, one of the best defensive players around. Instead, we have Deshaun Watson, as you mentioned, walked off the field during a 4th down past Kevin Stefanski, who was just totally dumbfounded. And this team is just in total disarray. As long as Jim Haslam continues to interfere with football operations, won't let them do their job. He says, "Oh, I want Deshaun Watson there." I think he's putting them out of spite. And I'm sickened by this. I still feel this team is going to be 1-16. I don't think there's any optimism right now. The team was a playoff team last year, but instead they're just a horrible sham of a team right now. And there's something that has to be done about this ownership. Jimmy Haslam can fire all he wants, but he's got to look himself in the mirror and just say, "Hey, look, it's me. I got to get out of football operations." But because an owner like this has an ego and money and feels he has to throw it around, he's going to make the decisions. And this is what we're left with.
Now, to be fair, I think that obviously I can't show the footage because obviously the copyrights. The video that's going around Watson walking off was largely due to the fact that I think they had 12 men on the field and they had to call a timeout. And obviously, burning a timeout with 12 men on the field obviously would make any coach exasperate, especially when you're in a tough position as Kevin Stefanski is with the the Browns as we speak right now. Do you really feel that the talks going around the radio in Cleveland, and I'm sure you obviously catch a little bit of the glimpse of the Cleveland radio station over there, when they talk about the Browns, whether it's on podcast format or on YouTube nowadays, the fact that they're still sticking with Watson at this point, do you feel like that that Stefanski is being hamstrung by the Haslams to force to start Watson over Jameis Winston, who would obviously, because of his past experience and his lively personality, would certainly obviously maybe uplift the Browns considering where they are right now.
I think there would be a lot more enthusiasm amongst the Cleveland fan base if we saw a different quarterback. But instead, we're seeing a guy who's playing with no joy, who doesn't care. And and absolutely, I do think this is coming from above. I don't think Kevin Stefanski can do anything. He's pretty much he's hogtied about in this decision from above to start a quarterback who just doesn't care. He doesn't. You can just see it out there. He doesn't want to play there. He doesn't want to be there. He's just taking the checks and just cashing them. And all that the Browns are doing right now is just, I don't know what Jimmy Haslam's trying to do. If he wants to get a new stadium, this is not the way to do it. You want to put a good product on the field. And maybe he wants to move the Browns again. Who knows? I would just, you want to talk about exasperation, Steven? I'm exasperated because I'm tired of seeing this franchise with incompetency all, up and down since 1998, since they returned. 1999, I've seen incompetence from the front office and ownership, but this is really taking the cake. And Deshaun Watson, he's got to go. He really has to go. But in a different type of management and situation, he wouldn't be playing. He would have been cut by now. But Jimmy Haslam, I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know what point he's trying to prove. I don't know why he's so in love with Deshaun Watson. It's his team right now, and he wants to do what he wants to do, and it's his ego getting in the way. And right now, we're stuck with Deshaun Watson and his huge contract and the ridiculousness of seeing him play every week and not caring.
Yeah, your colleague and a former guest on our show, Ben Axelrod, who is based out of Ohio, he worked at a TV station in Cleveland, and a noted Browns fans wrote this article today on your website. Is Deshaun Watson the most unpopular athlete in sports? The criticism of Deshaun Watson's play has only scratched the surface. And, you mentioned about the fact that there was no joy out of Watson playing. And we all know the backstory of Deshaun Watson. His career completely went sideways after he was, accused and was suspended for a long, long time due to sexual assault, at a massage parlor while he was with Houston. And, unfortunately, that really completely derailed his career. And he has never recovered from that since then. And, there's a Twitter from Awful Announcing here, Mike Greenberg making the case for Browns acquiring Watson being the worst transaction in the NFL history. If you cut Watson, his dead cap money for next year will be 172. That would be completely crazy and cripple. It is crazy. And then the unprecedented contract that the Browns organization gave to Watson, to give him the keys to the franchise, literally. But unfortunately, it's a situation that is not working. It is a complete disaster right now, and it's unfortunate that the Browns are the ones who have to suffer from this. And obviously the tone of your voice certainly not only probably coming from not necessarily the Watson itself, but from maybe coming from maybe the ownership themselves. Ken, is that how you're feeling? Is it more on the ownership or more on the Watson? Where do you stand on this?
I'm against this ownership, but I'm also against Watson. I think it's a combination of both, Stephen. My exasperation comes from years of failure, frustration, um, total ineptness on the front office over the years, making bad draft picks. And when it seemed like we were finally getting someone, a good coach in Stefanski, and some optimism with Joe Flacco last year, I thought that maybe we had turned a corner. But when the Browns decided to jettison Joe Flacco, not even offer him a contract, and just keep on Watson, that told me everything I need to know. So I wasn't very optimistic coming into this season. As I remember, I said 0-17 kind of facetiously, but then, um, when they lost to the Giants in Week 3, Stephen, that was really a wake-up call for me and a lot of Cleveland Browns fans who were thinking maybe, there's some optimism here. But when you see Deshaun Watson not caring, basically not – we knew that how great he was in Houston with running and everything. He doesn't want to run right now. He doesn't want to get hit. He looks like he doesn't want to get hit. And when you have a quarterback who doesn't want to get hit, that's a sign that he's playing scared out there. He's also not wanting to play to his full potential. And it's about time. In a normal situation, a team would have cut him by now. But instead, Jimmy Haslam, he says, I paid him. I extend his contract. For what reason? Nobody knows. But the Browns are stuck with him. They're going to keep him. They're probably going to play him next year too. And it's time for the Browns fans just to rise up and say, look, we've had enough of this, and not go to whatever they're calling Cleveland Browns Stadium now. It's just out of hand, Stephen. I'm just sick of it.
Yeah, your colleague Ben Axelrod kind of I've highlighted some of the comments that really shine the light on this situation. He is nearly universally disliked for his history of sickening allegations off the field that have continued up until last week. So, I can't think of any other athlete that has received this much negativity publicly and just so disdained or not well liked. I can definitely see that Watson just doesn't have it in him. He's just basically out there feeling miserable, which if it's basically coming from what he has done, with all these crazy allegations, he has no one else to blame but himself. He brought it on him. He brought it to himself. Whether he has this like a pathological social or sociopath, whatever you want to call him, maybe he has a problem that he hasn't fully been honest, or maybe he needs to be further diagnosed mentally. Whatever it is, there is something clearly off with Watson, and that it is unfortunate that his transgression is bringing down the entire city and the franchise, which are already suffered enough, with the the missing Super Bowls, with largely due to John Elway standing in their way to losing a franchise to Baltimore and having a several years of empty feeling and everything. So obviously the Browns are in a pretty a tough position right now, and that there's going to be some tough decisions to be made moving forward. And even if you fire Stefanski, I don't think it really changes or resolves nothing at all, unfortunately. And we'll see where this is heading. At some point there's going to be a decision that's going to be made, whether it comes from Stefanski himself or even Jimmy Haslam decided he's seen enough of Watson that he wants to make a change or whatever. So this situation definitely bears watching moving forward, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. All right, let's talk about my Bears. Thankfully, they faced the somewhat short-handed Carolina Panthers in this game, and thankfully, I was watching this game locally on Fox affiliate in the Michigan area, and we got the game. And at the beginning, I was kind of a little nervous because they scored on a rushing touchdown where the running back Chuba Hubbard was untouched, and I felt this weird negative energy. We're losing to Carolina of all teams, and then from there, thankfully, the Bears offense, and I'm having a hard time believing that I can't believe I'm saying this. The Bears offense kind of took over, and then never trailed from that point on. Caleb Williams was simply played well, and he actually, as always, week by week, gradually, I am seeing the progression and the improvements. The fact that a rookie like him can actually call audible and then make changes at the line of scrimmage, which obviously, a rookie quarterback or even a much less a veteran don't have that level of trust or, security by himself to do that. And you really, really have to believe in him. And, the coaching staff is showing a tremendous amount of trust in him. The much maligned offensive coordinator, Shane Walden, is, called a pretty good game the last 2 weeks. And this was one of the weeks in which I had nothing against this coaching staff. I had nothing to qualm about. And, offense, defense, and even special teams, except for the missed extra point, they played a relatively clean and near perfect game, in my opinion. And as long as Caleb is showing progress, with the connection to DJ Moore was also something that I wanted to see in this game early and often, and thankfully we saw that. If the communication and the deep ball accuracy continues to improve, at least in my opinion, the Bears' offense will be able to score a lot of points. And, right now the Bears' defense is playing very well, with the turnovers and sacks and stuff. Those things, aren't always going to come by, even when you're expected it. So the offense has to do their job, flex their muscles, carry the load, whatever you want to call it. And, I'm glad that I saw that even against the likes of Carolina. I mean, you can't blame the schedule. You just have to play with whoever's in front of you, no matter, whether the team is shorthanded because of the injuries or they're starting a backup quarterback because of it. You can't complain about the schedule. You just have to go out there and play the opponent that is in front of you, this week. And then you put up just an impressive showing of just an old fashioned ass kicking. And now you go to London and face a team that is in the same predicament, that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who won their first game of the season. At least every team now in the NFL has a win, thankfully. But, you have to be able to bat teams convincingly in order for, many people to convince that you are, a legitimate team and that is moving in the right direction. So I thought that this is a game that really showed and highlighted Caleb Williams' growth. I think the last 10 quarters versus his first 10 quarters as a rookie so far is night and day. I'm really, really happy. And I think for the first time, as somebody who witnessed both Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields failed miserably with the Bears, I like the direction and then what the Chicago Bears as an organization is doing to help accelerate the growth of Williams. And Williams is doing a good job of being, just taking care of the ball, game manager. But at least he shows some exciting arm against the Panthers in their win, and I hope I see more of that. With Jacksonville, and then also moving forward.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how Caleb Williams looked out there. Seeing, watching NFL Red Zone and the constant cut-ins, it seemed like there was another truly positive Caleb Williams highlight that they were showing on Red Zone, unlike Deshaun Watson, seeing him get sacked or seeing him just not caring. I mean, it was just for Bears fans, this is something that's got to give him a lot of optimism. The way he threw, the way that he was looking at the field, it looks like, and as quarterbacks tell you, when you finally are starting to see the field, the play slows down. And that's what it's looking like for Caleb Williams. It's looking like the plays are slowing. The field is slowing down. He's able to look. He's able to look off receivers. He's able to make that pass. He's able to put the right touch on it. I mean, when he gets truly his accuracy down, Steven, and you see that in a rookie, you're still seeing him throwing these very hard passes, especially on one of the touchdowns he threw extremely high, but the receiver caught it. Still, once he gets that accuracy down, there's no telling what this quarterback can do. I think it's really, really open-ended. I really think Chicago fans really have to like what they've been seeing. Yes. Now, are the Bears playing weak teams? Yes, that's because of their schedule. That's because of where they finished. You were absolutely right. They can only play who they play. They're going to go to London. They're going to play a Jacksonville team, which is coming off a win. But that's a winnable game for the Bears. It really has to be. They have to consider that a winnable game, especially how the Jacksonville Jaguars have been playing. So last week notwithstanding, and that defense by Jacksonville is not very good. You saw that Indianapolis still had a chance to win that game. So I really feel, Steven, that if the Bears travel well and get their rest in London, they have a really, really good shot of defeating Jacksonville and also perhaps making Doug Peterson's ride back to Jacksonville miserable because he's on the hot seat right now. I think the win last week over Indy saved his job for another week, but I'll be honest with you. I really feel that the Chicago Bears have, and the fans and the franchise, they're finally making the right moves. And as you mentioned, you had no reason to complain about Matt Eberflus. I know you've been complaining about him a lot, but it really seems.
And there are reasons for that too, like bad timeouts and bad challenges. Yeah, at least I didn't see that this past week. Thankfully.
So. You have absolutely reason to feel that maybe his offense and his plans are finally clicking with the right players, and you're finally seeing that. So, of course, one game doesn't a season make. Two games, 2 wins. You got to see something more. But if there is a win and a convincing one in London against Jacksonville, and I know everyone's going to be getting up early in Chicago. They're going to be getting up for the 8:30 game. They're going to get their coffee. They're going to have their devices ready. I really feel that, to be honest with you, Steven, that this game could be could be one to be looked back on as a big turning point for the Chicago Bears franchise, and one in which they say, this is where we saw Caleb Williams really, really get it, and a turning point for the franchise where, they can say, this is where we saw Caleb Williams really, really rise up to the occasion. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. Traveling overseas is no easy task for anybody. Jacksonville Jaguars have done it many, many times. They're 6-5 all time in London. Their owner Shad Khan and his son Tony owns Fulham FC, which is a mid-tier football or soccer club in the English Premier League. So this is their maybe a Super Bowl-esque. They play the next 2 weeks in London.
Yeah.
So even if Bears beat Jacksonville in an embarrassing manner, Doug Peterson will likely still be on the job, because it would be difficult to fire him and tell him to go to London, and you have an interim coach do the finish out their 2 week annual visit to London. So But yeah, if Bears beat Doug Peterson and the Jags, obviously it puts him, now at the top of the hot seat list. Certainly, obviously, with the Jets firing Robert Saleh, which we will get to in a minute. Um, would certainly put him on the hot seat. And you do have to wonder, if losing in London probably does not sit well with the ownership, who said that this is the most talented Jags team ever. So, it's a pretty big word. And if people like Shad Khan doesn't see the results that they want, they all have to consider making moves. And I do agree, this is a big game for the Bears too, because they have a bye week after this one. And if they lose, God forbid, to Jags, in regardless of what the outcome of the score is, the return trip will not be fun. And we're back to square one again. And we're going to be talking about is Matt Eberflus right coach, long term, or for Caleb and his development, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope, at least I'm glad that they're taking this trip seriously. They left last night to get to London, to get acclimated to the the weather and the time change. So I hope that at least when they lose, I don't want to hear about we were tired. I don't want to hear that. At least they're taking this one very, very seriously. So I'm very, very excited. I'm going to be getting up early, normal than the what I'm used to getting up on Sundays. So I'm at least have an excuse to get up early and get myself ready to watch the Bears and the Jaguars this upcoming Sunday. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, and then as you can see, the New York Jets took the the thunder in the sporting world earlier today. They fired their embattled head coach Robert Saleh. And obviously, the most popular question that people are asking is, was Aaron Rodgers responsible for the firing? I know that the owner, Woody Johnson, and Rodgers met on Monday, and they obviously denied that was a conversation that ever came up. But the reports say that, Ken, that, Saleh was trying to fire his embattled offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, who somehow Aaron Rodgers seems to like him a lot. And even though after his only season with head coach at Denver completely turned into one of the worst head coaching jobs in the history of NFL, somehow he was hired as soon as Aaron Rodgers was traded, which is kind of a, interesting move in both ways. I do believe that Rodgers certainly had a say, no matter who denies it. There's no question that the Jets' offense has struggled. They look absolutely garbage. Rodgers himself looked garbage in their recent game in London, where he threw 3 picks. In their embarrassing loss. There's also people who are saying that Woody Johnson, because he was the former United Kingdom ambassador while under the Trump administration, that he was pissed and he was embarrassed because so many diplomat friends was watching this game in London and the team lost embarrassingly. And then obviously we don't want to get too political here, but this was, again, I'll have to admit that there was something that I was thinking about because of Robert Saleh's background. Noted Jets fan and former WFAN, a blowhard who is now retired, Joe Benigno, did wonder that, if Robert Saleh was fired because he was wearing a Lebanese flag. Now, for those who are not familiar, Robert Saleh is actually a first Middle Eastern first NFL coach with a Middle Eastern heritage. And he's from the Detroit area, outside of Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. And full disclosure, I happen to live in that area. And, there's a part of the section in Detroit that is a very, very big Middle Eastern contingent. There's a, Middle Eastern, like a town. Where a lot of Middle Eastern Americans or Middle Easterns who have immigrated from their native country to live in America, whether they immigrated on their own or they left or fled the political chaos or whatever the reason is. And then that, the middle of Detroit, just outside of Detroit, middle of Michigan, I should say, just outside of Detroit is a huge contingent, and Robert Saleh happens to be from that area, and obviously there have been some protests, as you can imagine, by the Palestinians or even the Muslims in regards to the war in the Middle East, obviously involving Israel and everything. And now, just to be fair, Salah did wear a patch with the Lebanese flag last year. Obviously, when they, I think the NFL was trying to, promote some of the players and their coaches' heritage, where they're originally from. Some of the players are from Ireland, Scotland. Some of the players, obviously South American backgrounds, like Christian Gonzalez of the Patriots, who's originally from, Colombia, etc., etc. Cairo Santos, the kicker of the Bears, he's from originally from Brazil, etc., etc. So this is nothing new, and there was a. Salah did wear a patch with the Lebanese flag below the Nike logo on his sleeve Sunday in London. And some are actually was obviously the now former Jets coach, however, wore the patch last season during the Heritage program in week 7 and 8, which was almost exactly a year ago. Now, I did mention that there were some people, there were one Jets reporter who was on Dan Patrick's show saying that he was pissed that the Jets embarrassingly lost to the Vikings in London because of owner Woody Johnson, who was a former UK ambassador, and that played a huge role, according to those who said it. And then the fact that Johnson is an unabashed supporter of Trump as well, and because he's because Salah is a Middle Eastern heritage, that obviously led to some speculation or even some conspiracy in regards to the firing of Robert Saleh. But whatever it is, Ken, who no matter what the reason behind the firing of Salah, I'll stick to the football point and all of this. I do feel that Salah got screwed. I think you will agree with me on that one. It was the offense that was completely bringing down the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers. Because of his health, suffering a ACL last year, and then 6 games with the Jets, he hasn't looked all that impressive, in my opinion. Even when the Jets won, it wasn't like, well, it was Aaron Rodgers light up the field or something like that. So it's unfortunate that Salah had to be a victim or had to be the fall guy, regardless of the reasoning and all that. So I'll be very curious to see how the Jets move forward, because you have a Monday night game this week against another reeling opponent in Buffalo, and then you were talking about this team being probably the favorites to land disgruntled Raiders receiver Devontae Adams, and very, very curious how the Jets move on from this mess that that they created on their own. What do you think, Ken?
Well, first of all, I did not have Robert Saleh being the first coach being fired this season.
Me neither, yeah.
And the fact is that he tried to fire Nathaniel Hackett before he got fired. Shows you that how frustrated Saleh was with this offense. It hasn't shown much. It's a timing offense, and while Aaron Rodgers is a big proponent of and a fan of Nathaniel Hackett, and they did work together before, I just really feel, Stephen, that this offense is not well suited for the Jets, and you could see it. Rodgers looked baffled at times. He made bad throws, and it's something that has been his issue, especially later in the season when he tries to force the ball into triple coverage, which he did several times against Minnesota. And
Yeah, yeah.
one interception that was run back by Kyle Van Ginkel was a throw which he never would have made when he was younger. I mean, he threw it right to Van Ginkel, and Van Ginkel, all he had to do was just run back to the end zone. But the other two picks, even more baffling, throwing into triple coverage a couple of times, more than a couple of times. I know that and you could just see that Rodgers was frustrated. He went down hurt. It looked like he was hurt again. He was out for one play at a defensive series and then came back. But I'm really convinced, Stephen, that Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't matter who's the coach. I don't think that he can salvage a Jets season. I felt that the Jets are a paper tiger. You can bring in Jerry Rice. You can bring in John Mackey. You could bring in the greatest receivers with that offense right now, Stephen. I don't think that, you could. I don't think Aaron Rodgers could throw the ball in the ocean if he was standing on the beach right now. I'm not convinced that he has it anymore, and it's just rather obvious to me that while Rodgers is, I know he's a competitor. I know he wants to play out there. He's 40 years old. He's not nobody in the NFL, unless you're Tom Brady, is the same as you were 40, as you were 25. I just feel that Rodgers has it. Now, could they possibly potentially turn? Usually, when you fire a coach, the next game there is a reaction. So there is potential with Buffalo reeling. Maybe we'll see something with the Jets, but I don't know. I've yet to see it. There's been no evidence of it. So I with the Buffalo Bills and the way they played, I would like to think that they would play a much better game, especially a division opponent on Monday night against the New York Jets. But with the way this division is going, Steven, and with the Miami Dolphins, the way they played with one game out of the division right now of the lead, AFC East, who knows where this is going? But let me just say one last thing about Robert Saleh. I just thought that, as you mentioned, I thought he was. I agree that he was handcuffed. There's not much. Woody Johnson is another owner who just he's not. He doesn't. He doesn't. What I'm saying, he doesn't interfere like he does with other owners. As you mentioned, he was the ambassador to the UK for the United States under the Trump administration. So obviously he can't interfere when he was in the UK. But I will say this, that the Jets have got to find something. They've got to find something, otherwise that this is going to be another lost season, and a loss to Buffalo is going to put them reeling in a season which they were really hoping that this would be much more exciting. But right now, they've got they have some primetime games coming up, Steven. I can see them getting flexed. They're going to get flexed right out of them. So they've got to turn around, and I feel that Woody Johnson felt that the season was getting away from the Jets. Maybe that's true, but I don't think that's the move to make.
Yeah, I just hope that this was strictly a football-related move, whether people agree with me or not. So, at least that, with Saleh, he is a great defensive coordinator. There's nothing wrong with that. And that, if you can redeem yourself as a DC at elsewhere, which I'm sure there will be no shortages of jobs available next year. And maybe he can redeem himself again, and then, get another head coaching gig at a place that he feels comfortable. I think maybe a place like New York with all the, the glitz, the noise, and then you have Aaron Rodgers and all the conspiracy BS stuff. I feel like Saleh wasn't really given a fair chance, so hopefully he can redeem himself moving forward. All right, let's take a look at the other scores that really caught our attention. It's Thursday night. This was a real exciting game. Kirk Cousins, I never thought he would be able to throw 500 yards, but he certainly did against the Buccaneers in a very exciting NFC South showdown in Atlanta down there. Dolphins beat the Patriots 15-10. It's a reality for the Dolphins right now because. Yeah, I'm sure you saw the game, obviously, living up in New England. And now they're making a quarterback change with Drake May, their number 3 overall pick kid, starting against the Texans. It's a horror show. I don't know the decision to start Drake May against Texans makes sense all that much, in my opinion. What are people up in Boston saying right now, Ken?
Well, they're basically calling Drake May a sacrificial lamb right now. It is a mind-boggling move. If you said that he's not ready to play, why bring him in against the Houston Texans, who are on an upper echelon? Who I not upper echelon, I'd say the middle echelon in the AFC, a playoff team. They beat my Browns last year in the wild card round last season. I really feel that. I'm not sure why you would bring Drake May in. Jacoby Brissett, yes, he didn't play well against the Miami Dolphins. He played actually really. It looked like I said about Aaron Rodgers, being on the beach and not being able to throw the ball in the ocean. Jacoby Brissett just looked like he was lost out there against the Miami Dolphins, and this is a team that had no offensive attack. So I'm just not seeing why you're going to put Drake May in there. But hey, maybe he can do something. But I'm not sure if this is the game to do it.
No, this is going to be probably a very, very ugly one. And I do remember as a Bears fan when Justin Fields, started his career against your Cleveland Browns, by the way, in 2021, back, I think it was week 3 or 4. He was sacked 9 times. He was sacked 9 times on his debut. I hope, Drake May does not get sacked that many. And I hope that the New England Patriots, they do have a plan, with OJ Mayo as the new head coach. And obviously the coaching is getting a lot of criticism up in your neck of the woods, Ken, and rightfully so. I just hope that they don't destroy May on Sunday mentally and physically, because that's not how this is not an ideal matchup for a rookie quarterback on a team that is 1-4 and has an offensive line problem. Okay, so let's look at the other scores.
Well, let me say this quickly, Stephen.
Go ahead.
There was an interesting news about and what happened with the Patriots. They had a podcast, their own podcast, which mentioned that their coach, there was a mutiny in the locker room. Now that was quickly taken out and removed from the rebroadcast. But you have a situation where the Patriots are in disarray. They won their first game against Cincinnati, but since then they haven't shown anything yet. So the fans, they're used to excellence. They got spoiled by the Tom Brady years, and I did warn that the fans that this is when Belichick and Brady leave, it's going to be a very, very long decline, kind of like what the San Francisco 49ers happened with them after Steve Young and Joe Montana left, and all of their the great teams, that the great players from all their great teams in the 80s and 90s. I told them this, and they didn't want to listen. And now you're seeing a team that's in disarray. And Robert Kraft is being yelled at, and Jonathan Kraft is also being yelled at. So this is a team that right now there's a lot of anger right now and a lot of fan apathy. They're not at the point where the fans are going to be putting bags over their heads, but if they don't start winning, we may get to that point.
Mm-hmm. And then Sunday night, a late Sunday night game that was delayed because of the weather. Cowboys beat the Steelers. I stayed up on and watched the game. It was just a real snooze fest. Neither team looked all that good offensively. All of a sudden, the Steelers have lost 2 in a row after winning their first 3 games. I know they're trying to put it on Justin Fields, which I don't agree at all. I think it's preposterous to put it on a quarterback, even though I think he was more likely being let down by the receivers who weren't open or running a lazy routes. I'm talking about George Pickens, of course. And then offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, who was ran out of town after last season, fired by the Falcons. He was a head coach there before taking the Steelers OC job. But the offense is kind of struggling, and they're talking about maybe bringing back Russell Wilson into the starting role. However, I'm not there yet, and I don't think the Steelers fans are there yet. Even after a bad game, which they lost to the Cowboys, with less than 20 seconds left to go on a 4th down and goal play. I am willing to give Steelers another week with Justin Fields, but I do believe that the clock is now all of a sudden ticking on Justin Fields and the Steelers to salvage themselves, and they have a pretty winnable game against the equally bad offensive team in the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. So hopefully the Steelers are refocused and ready to take on the Raiders this Sunday in the late game slate there, and I do hope that Justin Fields will find a way to bring the W back to the Steel City there. All right, let's look at the couple of games this upcoming week. Yeah, obviously, I already told you the Jags and the Bears will kick off Sunday morning in London, so make sure you have your clock ready. 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Excuse me. The Ravens and the Commanders, they face each other in the DMW. Washington Corridor Bowl, whatever you want to call it, that they're going to face each other for the first time. Obviously, Lamar Jackson versus Jaden Daniels. It's going to be a very, very intriguing match, on CBS. I think the rest of this week, the Lions and the Cowboys, obviously, they face each other ever since the late season game, obviously the controversial decision about, offensive linemen reporting for eligibility was not notified or called correctly. That could be another very interesting game that's on the Fox late game slate. But Sunday night, obviously, you have the Bengals 1-4 versus the Giants, who, by the way, had a terrific win on the road in Seattle, which is not an easy place to play because the 12th man, the noise, and the distance you have to travel all the way up. This is not exactly an ideal matchup between Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones. If you go based on the quarterback, I think Joe Flacco wins, and I do believe, Joe Burrow. I think that Joe Burrow will have a chance to beat the Giants on Sunday, but the Giants are, coming off a win and feeling confident. So this is going to be at least an interesting game from that perspective. And then as we mentioned, the Jets all week leading up to this game will be the conversation about how Robert Saleh got fired. And then you're facing a team, the Bills, who had a terrible, terrible decision. Ken, as we all know, in their last position where they threw the ball 3 straight and never got a first down at all. They kicked the ball very deep in their own red zone. And then Kaimi Fairburn of the Texans, a big, strong, kicker, kicked this almost 60-yarder. You made a terrible mistake in giving the ball back to them. So obviously there's a problem with the Bills. 2 New York teams. Very, very interesting to see how the game turns out, whether the Bills can, get the W or Jets win with the interim coach, Jeff Ulbrich, as the interim coach. So at least we have a reason to watch the game on Monday, next Monday. So that's our rundown of Week 5 NFL and the quick preview of the NFL this week in Week 6.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that Giants game is that, as you mentioned, it's on Sunday night. It's too bad the NFL couldn't flex that game out last week.
Yeah,
doesn't deserve that. It really doesn't deserve to be there. And not only that, you also mentioned that Detroit and Dallas. That's going to be in the 4:00 game. It's also going to be a nice rematch between them of the. I think it was a Week 16 game last year on a Saturday night. A fun game. So we'll watch that and we'll see how it goes. I'm just interested to see, Stephen, how your Bears play in London, how they'll react to the time change of being 6 hours ahead normally from their hour. I'm also interested to see how Buffalo plays. As you mentioned, Josh Allen, he hit his head in the game against Houston, and there was talk that he might have been concussed, but obviously he came back. He didn't go into the blue tent, but then he made three, as you mentioned, three strange passes. Sean McDermott called for three passes from the end zone late when they really could have played for overtime. And then they handed the ball to Houston for a win. And now the Buffalo Bills are reeling. So we'll see how they do on Monday night against the Jets. Having both the Giants and the Jets in prime time on consecutive nights, I don't know what we did to get punished in a past life, Steven. The collective humanity really doesn't deserve that. That's happened before in the past couple of seasons with a bad Jets and a bad Giants team playing on consecutive nights on prime time on a Sunday and a Monday night. The NFL has got to stop doing that to fans. They got to stop. They got to realize that fans don't want to see bad New York teams in prime time, and no matter what no matter how big that the market is, and I know that the New York market is the number one market in the United States, but still, there's no need to see two bad teams on consecutive nights in prime time. We're being punished for something, Steven, in a past life. I don't know what it is, but the NFL's got to stop doing that. And I plead with my good friend Mike North, who is the head of scheduling at the NFL, to please next year do not put the Giants and the Jets in prime time on consecutive nights in next season, because nobody wants that.
Yeah, it would be very, very difficult. You play Sunday night in the same stadium and a Monday night. Obviously, the field crew is going to be burning the midnight oil, cleaning up and also repainting the Giants logo to the Jets logo, etc. So the field condition could be a very an interesting one for both the especially the Jets. Excuse me, because MetLife Stadium turf has caused quite an injuries to star players who played there. So this could be a very, very ugly surface game because you have the Giants playing 24 hours earlier. So that's our look down at the NFL for last week and then also this upcoming week. I'm going to talk about the college football for a minute. Obviously, unfortunately, Ken was out and about with his family members. And then, I didn't get to watch at all. But there were so many crazy upsets this past week. And it all began Saturday afternoon with Texas A&M completely thrashing what was then a 7th-ranked Missouri, who was disinterested or was not even in the game at all. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. Georgia coming off a bad loss against Alabama. They beat Auburn. Maybe, they did have some trouble with Auburn scoring-wise, but in the end, they managed to pull through. Ole Miss bounced back after losing to Kentucky at home as well. Good win for them against feisty South Carolina team. The biggest one, of course, that the people will be talking about is this. This is not a typo, folks. This is Vanderbilt. Yes, that Vanderbilt defeating Alabama, which was number 1 or number 2 at the time, 40-35. And, we waited all day for Alabama to finally get their act together and throttle Vanderbilt, especially in the second half. And shockingly, it did not happen. And there was a crazy video of Vanderbilt students touring down a goalpost and bringing it down all the way to downtown Nashville. And then it was just quite a scene. I think I can understand why some people love college football over the NFL and everything. And I guess this loss kind of really soured the mood of, the Alabama fans, which I don't blame them. Losing to Vanderbilt is a very, very embarrassing thing. And, their new head coach, Kalen DeBoer, looks as though, the honeymoon period has maybe come to an end already. Is it too early for that? the veteran safety Malachi Moore acting like a complete imbecile out there, kicking the ball, with about under a minute to go. Just an embarrassing sportsmanship from a veteran leader. If Nick Saban was still on that team, I think that may not have happened. But who knows? It's a very, very interesting college football of a week from last week. Will be very interesting to see what happens this week. Can Alabama bounce back? Obviously, they're already calling for Kalen DeBoer's head. People calling in on Paul Feinbaum's show on ESPN and lodging complaints. And, I understand, losing to Vanderbilt, it stings you. It embarrasses you. So I'm very, very curious, with the new head coach, is this a trying time for Alabama where they're going to lose another game or maybe even another one, 2 losses? Or can Alabama, use this as a fuel to, recharge themselves and take every opponent seriously moving forward? So, again, that's just my 2 cents on the college football from last week. All right, Ken, let's kind of do some quick wrap-up. Obviously, we talked about baseball. The Mets won today. They have a 2-1 edge over the NL favorite of Philadelphia Phillies. They have a chance to, end the series tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Dodgers is playing the hated rival San Diego Padres. We all witnessed the chirping, the ball throwing, and the yelling and all that kind of stuff, Ken. The rivalry between the Los Angeles and San Diego has gotten really, really hot and spicy in recent years. And Ken, give me your thoughts on the both divisional series, and can the Mets finish it up? And also, how much of the chirping and yelling done by both teams impact them moving forward?
Well, Mets right now are on a high after, especially what they did against Milwaukee last week in the wild card series, coming down with Pete Alonso's 3-run home run to win the series for the Mets against the Brewers. They pretty much set that up. Alonso homered today. He also did well in game 1. The Mets, the Phillies really had to outscore the Mets in game 2 to win. The bullpen right now just can't get any outs, and the Mets are taking advantage. So I don't believe that the Mets can be stopped. I don't believe the Phillies can stop them right now. And they need to win in order to get to a game 5 back home at Citizens Bank Park. But as we've seen, the Mets can pretty much right now are playing so confidently right now. I don't even think of, let's say they lose game 4 at Citi Field tomorrow, I don't think that they will have any fear of playing a game 5 on the road in Philadelphia based on what they did in Milwaukee last week. So I am going to call for the Mets win. I hate to say it. I don't like seeing the Mets successful. I've called them Metsy all these years on social media, but they're proving me wrong, and they have a great opportunity to advance to the National League Championship Series with a win tomorrow. Now, for the Dodgers and Padres, we saw them chirping. We saw the classless Los Angeles Dodgers fans throwing items at the Padres in both left field and right field the other night on Sunday. And I don't care if Fernando Tatis or anyone else is chirping at you. It doesn't mean that you throw items back on the field and endanger the players. And I don't blame the Padres for trying to say, "Hey, look, I want to take my guys off the field." I'm concerned that they're going to get hurt out there, and I don't really blame them. Yes, it started, in left field when the ball was caught in the Dodgers robbing a home run in the first inning away from Mookie Betts. Yes, there was some taunting by the Padres. Yes, that happened, but still, it doesn't justify fans throwing items on the field at the Padres that later on in that game. It led to the Padres hitting home run after home run. Manny Machado pulled outside and yelled at everybody. I don't know what he said, but the Padres played a really inspired game in Game 2, tying that series. Now it led to all 4 series in the American League and National League Division Series being tied at 1-1 for the first time in over about 20 years or so. Stephen, I love to see that, and I know that both the Fox and TBS are loving that as well. But let me just say this. The last thing you want right now is all 4 series to end in 4 games. You want at least a couple of these series going to 5. So that's what we're hoping with. I hope the Dodgers and the Padres can extend to 5. I'm not sure about the Yankees and Royals, even though that series is going to Kansas City. The Yankees have shown that they're a better team, at least in my opinion. Although the Royals did a great job in a great gritty win yesterday. And right now, we just have to wait and see on the American League. But right now, the National League, the Dodgers are leading the Padres 1-0 late. And I'm not late, but they just started the game. So it's about this. I believe it's in the 2nd inning. So I just really feel that I'm hoping the Padres and the Dodgers, they hate each other. It's great to see. We want to see more rivalries in baseball, and this is all part of it. The chirping is great to see, and I just don't throw things on the field. You just can't be classless like that. And Major League Baseball isn't going to penalize the Dodgers by saying we're not going to have fans in the stands, but you have to make examples of fans like that by tossing them or arresting them or pressing charges, because that can't happen.
No, absolutely not. And, maybe the fan behavior could fuel the Padres. Remember, the Padres have been to the NL championship 2 years ago when they lost to the Phillies. So they are battle tested. Nothing phases them. Their disdain and hatred toward the Dodgers and their fans could help fuel the Padres to another series win over the Dodgers. And a very, very interesting series, without question. And as for the other American League game out here in Detroit, the Tigers welcome the Guardians starting tomorrow. They got a big 2-out, 2-2 count home run by Kerry Carpenter off their closer, Class A. Huge home run. That kind of, and then he sort of put that, the Tigers are just a Cinderella team. They're going to get beat up easily. It will be the short, easy series for Cleveland just because they know each other, playing in the same division. It doesn't seem to be that way. So hopefully this is another series. Obviously, it's not sexy and interesting on paper. Both teams doesn't really have a huge following across the country. But nonetheless, it's going to be a very, very interesting series. And, hopefully it's going to be a very, very competitive series the rest of the way. And then, we should know the opponent in the next couple of days for the both AL and the National League Championship Series, which we will hope to get to discuss and preview and offer our prediction on our next broadcast. Now, speaking of next broadcast, that's going to be it for us tonight. And please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which obviously is live streaming. There's the channel, youtube.com/@FangsBites. That @FangsBites is also happen to be the same Twitter handle for my co-host, Ken Fang, as well. For Ken Fang, I am Stephen Negishi. We thank you for joining us tonight on this Tuesday night, and I hope everybody gets to enjoy the opening day of hockey, and then also week 6 of the NFL this weekend. Have a wonderful evening. We look forward to having you on our next broadcast. Take care, everybody, and thank you, Ken, for joining me once again tonight.
Yeah, great to be on with you, Stephen, and great to have you all 170 people who joined us on our live stream, whether you joined us through X/Twitter or YouTube. Thank you very much. And we don't know when we're going to be on next week. I have a new schedule coming out, so we'll definitely let you know on social media or when we're coming back. It's nice to see Stephen back from his suspension from
Twitter.
We guess
Twitter jail. We
don't know who is responsible for that. We don't know if
I'm
it was
probably responsible
right
anyway.
we don't know, but let's just put it this way: we're glad, Stephen, that you're back, and now we can tweet together. So you're able to see. Last week you were not able to see this live stream on his channel, and we somehow still managed to get over 200 people watching us. So we thank you for that. And now that we're streaming live on both channels, both YouTube and Steven's social and my social, we're very happy for that. So we'll see you again next week. We will let you know what day we're going to be on because I have a new work schedule, new days off. So we'll let you know, and keep it to Asian Sports Fan 1 and Fang Bites both on X/Twitter, and we'll let you know when we're back. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.